Khamzat Chimaev, perhaps the most extraordinary fighter in the upper league at the moment. His performances leave nobody indifferent. His last fight is a testament to that. Dear friends, considering Bors's recent win at UFC 279, we'll remember Khamzat Chimaev's all-professional career fights. Here we go. Not many people know that Khamzat Chimaev started his professional career rather recently. In May of 2018, 5 years after his family moved to Sweden, Bors had his first professional MMA fight. Khamzat competed at the IRFA tournament against an opponent in OLVE SAGEN. Prior to that, Khamzat already made some noise in amateurs and had 3 fights. All fights ended with a finish, 2 submissions and 1 TKO. Now as Bors arrived in the big league, it seemed like the quality of opposition should change, but it wasn't the case. Chimaev's first professional fight went to a second round, but for these 8 minutes that the fight lasted, Sagan only received damage and did nothing else. The first round started at a high pace. Soon Chimaev's quick and precise jab knocked his opponent down, and then it began to resemble a true beating. Being on the ground, Sagan tried to resist the Chechen, but nothing worked. Khamzat was just ruthlessly beating his opponent up. As a result, the referee stopped the fight halfway through the second round. First professional win via TKO was earned successfully. The Chechen returned 3 months later. His next opponent was OLVE MAGNOR. This time the fight lasted for almost a round. From the very first seconds, Chimaev scored a takedown. As he secured a convenient position against the fence, he began to smash his opponent. Closer to the middle of the round, Khamzat showed an interesting technique. He twisted his opponent's hand behind his back and began to thrust one punch after another from the top position. Surprisingly, MAGNOR weathered Bors's ground and pound and even tried to fight back from the bottom position. In one of those moments, he landed a rather weak strike on Khamzat's chin. The latter lost his mouthpiece because of that, but Chimaev did not lose his cool. Holding his opponent with one hand, he calmly fixed his mouthpiece and closed the choke. In the 4th minute of the first round, Bors earned his second professional career win via submission. Brave, a legit organization for starting professionals, couldn't help but notice such a promising fighter. After 2 spectacular finishes, an uprising Chechen fighter was signed with the organization. Khamzat debuted in Brave 3 months after his last fight. He was up against MARKO KISIČ, who at that time was considered a prominent finisher whose fights do not go the full distance. It was nothing for Khamzat. At the very beginning of the first round, a huge right reached its target and sent the Austrian fighter on the canvas. He immediately got up, but soon was sent to the ground again. Even though the majority of the fight happened on the feet, Chechen's advantage was quite evident. KISIČ was knocked down a couple more times throughout the round.
I want to see more of these fighters.
Good takedown from Chimaev.
They talk about corners being in the cage with you emotionally.
And within 2 minutes left in the round, he wasn't meant to get up again. Khamzat once again established a dominant position and looked to finish the fight. Very soon, heavy hammer fists and other strikes made the referee stop the fight.
Oh, big hammer fist, that's it!
It's all over!
Marko KISIČ protesting the stop.
So, in less than a year, Khamzat Chimaev earned his 3rd professional win via TKO. Despite the fact that his debut was more than enough to make a good impression, it was just the beginning for Khamzat Chimaev. He began to make big waves very soon. 1 month later, Bors came in on short notice and had his 4th professional fight in December. On top of that, he saved Brave's 20th tournament, being a replacement fighter in the bout against welterweight SIDNEY Wheeler. The first couple of seconds of the fight were surprising as Wheeler went forward and threw strikes which made Khamzat back up and immediately go for the legs. And then despite a good start, His opponent quit as soon as the Chechen established an advanced position and began to beat him up in his usual manner. The fight didn't even last a minute. Chimaev won his 4th professional fight in just 35 seconds. This guy is something else. Khamzat returned to Brave's 23rd tournament 4 months later. He was set to face a very serious opposition in the face of IKRAM ALISKEROV. At the time of the fight with Chimaev, ALISKEROV had a record of 8 wins with no losses. Former Sambo world champion and apprentice to the great Abdulmanap Nurmagomedov. He was good in every aspect of the fight. He was on par with each of his former opponents in the stand-up and imposed his will in wrestling. Basically, he was considered a really worthy opponent for young Boers. The fight started off fast. Even though Chimaev knew the level of wrestling skills IKRAM possessed, he went forward with no hesitation and constantly tried to take him down. Such an impudent and confident approach got ALISKEROV a little bit phased, but he still didn't let Khamzat take him to the ground. But it wasn't the Chechen's main objective. As he switched his opponent's attention in the other direction, Chimaev landed a quick and precise jab that knocked IKRAM down. After a brief kicking exchange, Boers changed his tactic. Switching the line of attack, he threw a quick and heavy uppercut that landed right on the target. Symbolic follow-up, but it wasn't necessary. ALISKEROV was already unconscious. Chimaev became the first one to defeat ALISKEROV, and by the way, IKRAM's current record is 13 wins and 1 loss. That means that Boers is still the only one to go through such a serious opponent, considering his level of skills. Khamzat Chimaev's last fight in Brave happened in October of 2019. His next opponent in MZWANDILE, HLONGWA, had decent chances to win according to experts. But experts' opinions in such a complex sport of MMA are not always reliable. Chimaev took his opponent down right from the start and began to control him. That was basically the story of the first round. The second round started off with another takedown, but this time Boers showed a move we will only see in UFC again. He grabbed his opponent, picked him up, carried him through the whole cage and landed him near his corner. Soon after that, Khamzat closed the D'Arce choke, which resulted in his win. This fight happened to be the last one because of the pandemic. Even though the Chechen planned to fight for the local belt, things got messed up due to the situation in the world and a global lockdown. But there is no thing without good. Whether Khamzat kept on competing or not, the fights that he already had gave him an opportunity to draw attention. Soon Khamzat signed a contract with a worldwide known manager, Ali Abdelaziz, which kind of guaranteed that Khamzat is going to compete in the world's best league right in front of Dana White himself. Closer to July of 2020, such opportunity presented itself. Being no longer under Brave's contract, Khamzat Chimaev travelled to the Fight Island. He was set to face John Phillips on 1 week notice. Phillips was a decent striker with a good record, but he didn't have too many chances against a wrestler of such a high level. The fight expectedly began with a takedown. 10 seconds in, a successful carry to his corner. Chimaev was butchering poor Phillips for the whole round while listening to his corner's advice. At the
Yeah, I said to Dana I want to fight next week, but my coach, my brother Reza Madadi, he was in the UFC, everybody know him, he's an amazing fighter. He said to me, listen to me, we're gonna take the fight, take it easy now, not next week, but I listened to him. Maybe next month, 1-2 months, come back and smash somebody again.
But coaches and other Chimaev's team members' hopes were not meant to be fulfilled. After a record-breaking 10 days, Boers was inside the octagon again. He was up against a debutant in RHYS MCKEE, who was signed specifically to fight the Chechen. Similarly to his predecessor, the Irish fighter couldn't show anything special. Anything competitive was not even up for discussion. Khamzat, as usual, took his opponent down and began to beat him up until the referee stopped the fight. 2 wins in 10 days couldn't help but draw the public's attention to Khamzat. Boers' spot was empowered by the fact that in those 2 fights, he was hit only twice. in contrast to landing 192 strikes. It was an obvious, unprecedented case in modern history. Chimaev wanted to break into this sport with
you're getting the comparisons to Khabib already, you know, comparing you, hey, Khabib, well, even your manager is calling you Khabib 3.0. Is that okay? Do you want those comparisons, or do you not want to be tied to Khabib?
It doesn't matter for me. I like these guys. Is these guys now pound? I think it's pound. I don't know. It's pound for pound number one. Yeah, I think it's pound for pound number one. He's 28 wins. Like, yeah, but soon I'm gonna be pound for pound number one. I'm gonna be champion. I have 8 fights, 8 finish. I destroyed everybody. I'm gonna do this next fight also.
5 days after his second UFC win, the public was intensely arguing that Khamzat Chimaev is a potential future superstar of the promotion. There wasn't a day without somebody releasing a breakdown or analysis video about him. At the same time, Boz was giving interviews left and right, calling out Conor McGregor.
If Conor McGregor is watching this right now, Khamzat, what is your message to Conor McGregor?
Let's fight. Don't talk and fight. If you're a real gangster, a real man, like, don't talk in the Instagram. Just come in the cage, like, talk in the cage, say something to me.
From that moment, the hype around Khamzat Chimaev was only taking off. Boz had another fight in 2 months. The Chechen was given a tough average fighter and a BJJ black belt, GERALD MEERSCHAERT. Despite his variable success in the UFC and a constant mix of wins and losses, MEERSCHAERT had quite a provocative attitude. He completely dismissed Khamzat Chimaev. He saw a young and inexperienced prospect who is 100% not on par with him.
So whatever happens on the 19th, people are going to know my name a lot better from now on. I'm going to inflict pain, because even if I want to walk out of that cage and somehow, let's say I lose a controversial decision or something, I promise you one thing: Khamzat is not going to be physically able to fight come October. As soon as he steps out of that cage, he's going to need at least 6 months to recover from what I'm going to do.
He's got the height of most middleweights, but he's really skinny. Like, he's not that thick of a guy. So if nothing else, I don't understand how and I'm sure he believes it, how he believes that he's gonna put his hands on me and be able to do anything. Like, he doesn't look big enough, he's probably pretty fast because he's gonna be lighter. His technique isn't bad at all, but you still gotta have some kind of power to do anything, especially in grappling. And I'm a pretty strong grappler myself, so I don't think this is the weight class for him.
Such provocative behavior and sharp statements couldn't get away from Boz's attention.
Yeah, he was here. I met him. He was like, I said he speak too much. He talk too much in my media. Like, he disrespect me. He did like these things. I didn't like that. But I said to him, "You like to talk too much?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "I'm gonna smash your face, chicken." And he said nothing. Like, I broke on it.
But the peak of this rivalry was at the press conference. At that moment, Khamzat himself sucked the air out of the room and began to verbally dismantle his opponent.
13. You think you're black belt?
Yeah.
But
yeah, when you
Jack
fight tough guys,
Jack Hermanson, he didn't have a black belt. Why he choke you out?
Sometimes you lose when you fight tough guys, man.
Who give you?
You'll find out.
Belt? I have a blue belt. I'm gonna choke you out.
You can go ahead and try there, buddy.
You have to give me your black belt to me.
Unfortunately, we couldn't see the clash of the ground skills, but despite that, Khamzat found a way to impress, and compared to others, he remembered. It took Boz only 17 seconds to dispatch an experienced and talkative fighter. One with the right hand, and MEERSCHAERT is slayed, as well as his winning aspirations. A third UFC win and a 17-second knockout in the first round. Insanity! GERALD MEERSCHAERT couldn't give any clear comments after the fight. He kept silent, while the Chechen was happy to talk about such a decisive third win in the UFC.
Feel good. Feel good to knock him out. I see he was, when I look at his eyes, he was a little nervous, like in the cage. When I look at him, he don't want to be there. I said that directly.
After his third win in a row in the world's best league, UFC wanted Khamzat to face another promising title contender, Leon Edwards, who is the current welterweight champion. But all these plans were tarnished by the pandemic. On top of that, it was soon found out that the Chechen was seriously ill. It was so serious that Chimaev even considered retiring. He announced that on March 15th of 2021 in his Twitter. Fortunately, this was a hasty and emotional decision. A week after that, Boz gladdened his fans with the news of his quick return. Half a year later, after this tweet, Chimaev made a long-awaited return to the cage. His opponent was a number 11th ranked welterweight fighter, JINGLIANG. Boz was as hungry as ever after his return. He wanted to get back in the cage as soon as possible. That's why prior to his fight with JINGLIANG, Khamzat was extremely charged up.
It's a decision. How does your fight end on Saturday?
I'm gonna eat him up, like I do always. 9 fights, 9 finishes.
As for Lee, he was not willing to be left on the sideways either.
So I know he did 3 UFC fights, and there are so many medias want to know about him. But all in all, only my fist to the talk. Yeah, let's find out. It's the leech versus the wolf. Let's see who eat who.
As expected, this fight was amazing. Khamzat showed the true beauty of technique in his 4th UFC fight. As we talked about earlier, he did the exact same throw as in the fight against MZWANDILE HLONGWA. The Chechen grabbed Lee right from the start of the fight and carried him through the whole cage to the opposite corner. The landing was not far away from Dana White, with whom Khamzat had time for a little chat. Soon, Chimaev closed the choke and just waited for the fight to be over. We should give Lee credit for not tapping but falling in and made a showing of himself once again.
Everybody, I come here for everybody, kill everybody, I'm the champ, I'm the king, everybody.
There were talks about Nate Diaz and George Masvidal at the post-fight press conference, which Khamzat couldn't avoid.
Yeah. Hey Diaz, let's go, brother, let's go. I'm gonna get some smoke, bro. I'm gonna give him some shot, bro. And let's see who is the real gangster. Masvidal, he has fight. People has like something, he has some bad, I don't know, but I forgot belt something.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take everything from this UFC, brother. Now I am UFC, brother.
Khamzat's next fight was supposed to happen in April of 2022, and now there were no questions about his future spot, because the Chechen was up against a number 2 ranked welterweight and a former title contender, Gilbert Burns. When this fight was put together, the Brazilian had a record of 20 wins and 4 losses, and in the fans' eyes, Burns was a guy who theoretically could stop Boz. Anticipation for the fight between these two monsters was through the roof, and fighters themselves hyped this upcoming clash even more.
I'm gonna go in the cage and, like I do always, take his head and go home.
We're gonna test, right? We're gonna see if that guy is real or not.
And he lose, like when it comes to Usman, he lose and start to cry. And he beat like old man who was like, you know, like what is his name, Damian Maya, almost 40 years old.
I wanna fight the best guys. If he's one of that, if he's that beast, that's the guy that I wanna fight.
The fight exceeded all expectations. Even though everyone subconsciously understood that Khamzat would look so dominant in his fight against Gilbert, nobody could predict a true 3-round war. Both fighters tried to cut each other's heads off for the whole 15 minutes. The fans were amazed. Nobody ever presented Chimaev with a serious opposition before, and of course nobody ever made him work so hard that Boz let himself gas and even get knocked down. All in all, it was a show. In the conclusion of 3 rounds, the Chechen won via unanimous decision.
For many mistakes, go back, watch my fight, and I always do. I'm gonna work hard, work more than I did. I need to be everywhere, black belt, striking, going, ground and front, wrestling, grappling, what else, everything. I'm gonna fix everything now.
It wasn't not like something surprise from him, but this was wrong for me. Coach told me all the time, slow down and work more technical. I just wanna like take his head off, you know, like always that we do. And
But next time I'm gonna work for that.
The fight with Gilbert Burns showed that Khamzat Chimaev is also human, and with proper training he is beatable. But whether you can find a guy who might do that or not is a whole different question. Bors's last fight happened quite recently, one of the most controversial events in the world's best league, UFC 279, took place just a few days ago. For those who for some reason don't know or understand what I'm talking about, here is a brief overview. Initially, UFC 279 was supposed to be headlined by Nate Diaz and Khamzat Chimaev. It was the last fight under the contract for the Stocktonian, and as far as one could tell, he didn't plan to extend his contract with the promotion. As it got closer to the tournament, it was suddenly announced about a new addition to the card. Tony Ferguson was going to face Li Jingliang on 3 weeks' notice.
Said you were working on next month's pay-per-view, getting some fights on there. Tony Ferguson tweeted out. Tony Ferguson fighting?
Yes.
Who's he fighting?
Oh, he didn't say who he's fighting?
No.
All right. We'll let you know soon.
You gave
it's done. It's Leach.
Such an unexpected and unusual decision caused a lot of controversy, but there was no way around it. Everybody just waited for the show to happen with bated breath. When it was less than a week before the tournament, the chain of bizarre events took another turn.
Yeah, this ain't gonna happen. I apologize, everybody. I am in very weird waters here. This has never happened in the history of this company. So, trust me when I tell you this is the right decision not to do this press conference right now. And
a few days before the tournament was supposed to happen, Dana White suddenly announced at the press conference that the face-off would not happen, and this event has to be cancelled because of the mass brawl at the backstage. According to the media, the reason behind the conflict was a misunderstanding between Chimaev and another uprising prospect, Kevin Holland. It was found that the team of the Stocktonian, consisting of 50 people, also pulled up, which led to a massive brawl. Holland was supposed to fight Rodriguez at the same tournament. The cancelled press conference was followed by weigh-ins. All of a sudden, Khamzat Chimaev is 4 kilograms overweight. You can't really say if it was staged or not, but considering Bors's reaction, he wasn't too surprised with his weight. This news literally blew up the internet. Nate Diaz, who was supposed to fight Chimaev, immediately refused to fight, saying that Chimaev's team did not even try to make weight, and he made it known for everybody he will only fight Tony Ferguson. A few hours of intense anticipation later, with literally 1 day before the tournament, it was announced that the 3 fights on the main card were shuffled. Now, Li Jingliang fights Rodriguez, Kevin Holland will face Khamzat Chimaev, and the main event, Nate Diaz goes up against Tony Ferguson. Such a shuffle did not confuse Bors at all. He was still confident in his victory.
For me, it doesn't matter. I fight everyone, so.
It's been a roller coaster. A lot of my family is nerve-wracked because they know I can't wrestle, but I'm happy because I know I'm getting paid, so it doesn't matter. Let's do it.
When the changes were announced, the majority of the community figured that Holland's chances are not that high. Nevertheless, some people believed that because the fight was scheduled for 5 rounds, Kevin would be able to weather the early storm and give him a real fight in the championship rounds. In reality, things were a lot less complex. From the very first seconds, Holland got grounded. Khamzat almost instantly went for the ass choke. Despite a good defense and active attempts to get out, Kevin tapped 2 minutes later. So Bors won his 12 professional career fights in a row.
If I fight him, I would kill him, I would be in the jail, so maybe I have to be happy, so why not? I don't know. I said to you, I'm gonna go back and listen to my coach. If he said go 170, we go 170. When he says heavyweight, we go heavyweight, so I don't care. I do my training camp and how he says we train hard, never stop. I'm gonna go back.
Currently, Khamzat Chimaev is just 1 step away from fighting for the title. If he doesn't have issues with weight cutting in the near future and targets a specific weight class, considering his skills, he has every chance to win the belt. We wish Bors luck in his upcoming fights.